better never rests.
Counting careless in the sky. What a thrilling time to be alive.
What is up, everybody? It is the Georgia Show. I'm Jake Rowe. He's Rusty Mansell. We are from DawgsHQ, and it's Super Bowl Sunday. We get to watch our last little bit of meaningful football for a long time, Rusty, for a long time. But we got a lot more to talk about than that. We got some Georgia-specific stuff we got to get to first. Georgia adds Ben Yurosek from Stanford at a tight end, and I don't know. I'm thinking I may be a little higher on this move than everybody else is, or some reason. I feel like it should be a much more talked about thing, but that's kind of what happens when it happens on a Friday. And then we're going to get into kind of some of the stuff going on at the Alabama stuff, share our thoughts on a quick coaching turnaround there for them with the offensive coordinator and offensive line coach leaving. And then we're going to get into some Super Bowl Sunday talk, some Super Bowl memories and things like that. But, Rusty, let's get to Ben Yurosek. Tight end out of Stanford, over 1,300 yards the past 3 years. Here's how I look at it. Why did Georgia add Ben Yurosek to a pretty loaded tight end room? Well, they just lost one of the best tight end in college football. Why not add one of the best tight ends in college football over the past 3 years, right?
I'm glad you pronounced his name first because I would have butchered it up. I've heard it now pronounced like 3 different ways already in the Georgia market. So he's looking at the tape on him, and obviously Georgia wants to add some size to that room. I think that was kind of the message they wanted. I think they feel good with Oscar Delp and Lawson Lucky coming back. Pierce Sperlin's been injured, he's got to gain some weight. So I think Georgia, when you look at that, really wanted to add some size there. And, for what was on the market and what was available, like this guy was a no-brainer. And I know they were looking at some other guys, but, from my understanding, this is the one that they targeted. This is the one they went after. And like you said, when you're a fifth-year player, I think he is, graduate from Stanford, you're putting a grown man into the room. You're putting a grown man into the offense. And Georgia has shown they can play with 3 tight ends, and at times they will, because that personnel package is so hard to defend. Is this guy Brock Bowers? He's not. Georgia's not going to have a Brock Bowers again for a long, long, long time. It doesn't mean they can't have talented players. Same way with Roquan Smith. They don't have a Roquan Smith, but they've done all right at inside linebacker. So we're not going to compare him to Brock Bowers, but we're going to, you're going to talk about some things they've done successful with packages like that. And I think this is another addition that you're right is not getting enough attention just because of the time of the year. It's a Friday night deal. This guy's he's not in the recruiting scene and all that. This is one of the few ones that Hayes Fawcett didn't break. You know what I mean? And I don't think he wanted a Hayes edit, which are, that's the going thing now. Everybody loves that. And Hayes does a great job, but this is a grown man, and to graduate from Stanford says a lot.
I believe he had right around 650 yards in 11 games as in 2022. Maybe it was 2021, but it was one of those, 2021 or 2022. Man, if you extrapolate that out over 15 games, Rusty, that's 900 yards receiving. I mean, that's 648 yards, I believe is the exact number. That would be the best receiving season for a Georgia tight end not named Brock Bowers.
Did you see Jim Nagy, the director of the Senior Bowl, tweet on Friday? He said, hey, this guy had a Senior Bowl invite. Had he been healthy and wanted to take it, he goes, Georgia just got a really good weapon. He goes, I had already invited him to the Senior Bowl, but he was injured. So he's coming back to play another year. And I thought that was a really good statement by somebody that watches more tape than just about anybody, especially the upperclassmen. So, certainly he was highly thought of around the country as one of the top tight ends in the country. And I'm sure Carson Beck was somewhere smiling Friday night going, oh, yeah, let's put that piece in the huddle.
No doubt. And listen, I get it, man. Georgia's got some tight ends that folks want to see. They want to see Oscar Delp get his shot. They want to see Lawson Lucky, get after it, and Pierce Sperlin do his thing. Jaden Riddell, they want to see all of them. But you're never going to stop Kirby Smart from wanting to win now and really trying to have his cake and eat it too. And he's really good at it. Finding a way to win now and finding a way to win and finding a way to build for the future.
Competition, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, that dude won't sit in every single room. That's why I think Georgia's going to add a quarterback in May. They want, some experience there. They want to, bring another guy into that room, and certainly with tight ends and a guy that can play right now and competition. It's just hard to lock into a job at Georgia and not have somebody behind you pushing you at all times. And that's the culture he's built.
Yeah, and one of the things I really, really like about this kid, and we've said it, he's not Brock Bowers, okay? But Brock Bowers did some things for Georgia offensively that made him really tough to defend. And that's not all that he was. I mean, he was the first guy since Todd Gurley and Nick Chubb that I really felt like every single time he touched the ball, Bowers, every time he touched the ball, it really seemed like there was a chance for a touchdown to be scored. So Yurosek is not that guy, but jet sweeps, quick passes, RPO stuff, he does all of that.
Yeah, I saw the reverse yesterday. He ran like 45 yards on that reverse and that kind of package. So that's certainly, it's a no-brainer. You know what I mean? I don't know how much more we can say about it. Like this fits. I see why Georgia wanted him, and I see why he wanted to go to Georgia. And think about it for his point of view. It's so hard to graduate from Stanford. Such a unbelievable accomplishment. One of the, you talking about going and applying for a job in life. When you lay a resume on there and it says graduate from Stanford, they put you on top of the stack.
Yeah.
And, for him to accomplish that academically and to play Power 5 football, but he's about to go to Georgia and he's about to get what I would consider the best of both worlds. You know what I mean? He graduated from Stanford. He's about to get a season at Georgia between the hedges. He's about to be playing for the, the goal here is to win a national championship, to play the 15th game, 16th game, whatever it is now. And, this young man I know he's got to be excited. Somebody told me that Stanford is on quarter system. So he could actually be in Athens, not enrolled in school, but actually be in Athens maybe toward the end of March. So he would get a month head start on everybody else that's coming in, and he could, just kind of, I don't know the parameters. What I can't work out the team. I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
He's going to be able to move into Athens. And at that point, he can watch practice and do all those things to see that stuff. So I was blown away that somebody's still in the quarter system, but
I know, right? I believe Washington's also on the quarter system.
There's a couple. Yeah, there's a couple on the quarter system, but it's been a while since I've heard that.
I don't even know what it is, honestly. Like I remember when my brother was going to junior college back in like the late 90s. I've never been able to wrap my head around it. All I've ever experienced is like a semester system, but getting in there and doing that's going to be great for him. I do think that he has a chance to be a very, very good tight end. Georgia's got him. And listen, when Brock Bowers gets drafted, Palmer told me this stat the other day and it blew me away. I think it goes all the way back to like Arthur Lynch or somebody that Georgia, and it may not go quite back that far, but it goes back a ways. No, it hasn't gone back because it was Isaiah McKenzie. I think it's starting in 2017. Georgia has had a tight end drafted in every single draft, or 2018 since up to now. And Brock Bowers is going to get drafted. Yurosek stays healthy in Georgia. He's going to get drafted. Then it's all about, does anybody come out? Does Oscar Delp stay for his senior year, get drafted? Georgia's got a little streak going there, like 5 or 6 guys in a row. And I really like this kid, man. I didn't know, like I've been high on pretty much all of Georgia transfer portal additions. McLeod made a lot of sense. ETN's my favorite. I think that's the biggest one. Colby Young and Lennon Humphreys made a lot of sense to me. Michael Jackson did not make a lot of sense to me. I do understand some of that. You want an experienced kick guy, return guy, all that stuff like that. It makes a little bit of sense, but not a ton. I like this one better than every one of them except for ETN. I think this edition is massive, and I like Oscar Delp a lot too. But when Georgia's been at their best offensively, they've had 2-3 tight ends that they can really depend on. It makes them very versatile. I think this cat's a day 2 pick at worst if he comes to Georgia and has a really good season. And like you said, it's a really smart move for him. He gets his degree from Stanford, and then he also gets to come and play on a big stage for a year. And there's a chance that he's going to make a lot of money playing this game, especially with how the game's going. All right, Rusty. Listen, I'm not going to get it. Alabama's not our lane, really. But I thought that it's interesting. Ryan Grubb, offensive coordinator, is taking the Seattle Seahawks job as offensive coordinator. He's also expected to take his offensive line coach with him. There's a report out there that they waited till after the transfer portal window closed to announce all of this. Rusty, I've got no problem with it because here's the deal. And listen, it's their cross to bear whether there's going to be any fallout from it. Okay, I'm not talking about I'm not saying, oh, there won't be any fallout or there won't be any negativity on them because of this. Whatever happens, happens. What I'm saying is they just dealt with a 30-day window where I can guarantee you at least a dozen players came in and said, hey, coach, somebody's, I got a chance to maybe get out of here and go do this. Can I get a better NIL package? More than once, like 2, 3, 4 times. Everybody's using the rules to their advantage, and I don't see a big problem with this personally. I just want to see what you thought.
I don't really kind of get the deal where people were trying to turn that against Alabama because of it's already too late to go anywhere else. I mean, if you're going to leave, you're going to leave in May,
and you're going to sit around.
Yeah, you might as well just go through spring practice. So maybe they saved one player or something like that. But like, if that news would have broke Friday morning and those kids had 12 hours left with a portal open, somebody may have went in. But it wouldn't have made any sense for anybody to go in because they're already halfway through the semester, or you're deep in the semester at Alabama. You're in training. You're going to start spring practice here in a month. You might as well go through spring practice with this new staff, see how you like it. I mean, I would think that if there's any fallout, it'll be that April window, April 15th through May 1st. But I don't see where people were like, we're trying to trick them, because I don't know what options the Alabama kids would have had. You know what I mean? Like trying to get just say somebody want to go to Georgia. Well, they're not getting in now. That's
right.
That's about 2 or 3 weeks past that window. So there might have been a school that said, hey, you can come, but did they probably stretch it to the end? The kind of, for me, kind of the funny thing was it broke Friday night at like 11 o'clock. You know what I mean? Like if you're Kalen DeBoer and you're tight with Ryan Grubb, and I'm sure they are, he goes, look, man, let's just break this thing Friday night and, minimal damage, and you kind of control that narrative. But as far as holding kids hostage by waiting on that decision, the only way I could think that would ever reverse on Alabama is if someone found out it was a verbal agreement 10 days ago. You know what I mean? When his name first surfaced right after Mike McDonald got that job. So I don't see really, the kind of the uproar, because those kids you have really no options right there. Even the Michigan kids that are in there right now with this deal, and they got 30 days. Even UCLA, where are those kids going to go? I mean, they can't go anywhere. Now, what you want to watch is what's going to happen April 15th through May the 1st. That's going to tell the tale for a lot of these schools. But when you look at that thing, if you're an Alabama player, you're not going anywhere in the SEC. That conference window is closed. So it'd just be interesting to see. But I don't think there was really too much behind the scenes other than me personally. I think it was more of a PR deal. If anything breaks Friday night at 11 p.m., that's on purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That we always laugh about that Friday afternoon dump. Everybody that has those self-reporting violations, those minor violations, they'll send that out Friday about 5:30, and they know people are checked out for the weekend. So I didn't really kind of see, somebody want to really turn that thing against Alabama. I just didn't see it.
And listen, you may be able to use it against them negatively on the recruiting trail. I don't know. But I mean, I don't care if
somebody's going to try. I can promise you that now.
They will. And we'll see if you can effectively use it. But man, I tell you what, dude, all the stories you hear about players coming into coaches' offices over and over and over again. Hey, coach, I got to, somebody let me know that, I could jump in the transfer portal. I could get this much from so-and-so. And then, I mean, listen, it's the Wild West out here. And the pendulum is way in the player's favor right now. And I got no problem with that. But with the pendulum being where it's unlimited transfer, NIL, all that stuff, with the pendulum being over there, I'm not going to fault anybody for using the rules to try and keep this thing under wraps or not under wraps, but on the rails as best they possibly can, because this train's moving 1,000,000 miles an hour. And you're right, though. I mean, maybe there's some talk that Washington, maybe some of the guys that were following DeBoer and those coaches from Washington to Alabama, maybe they don't make that same choice if Grubb and the offensive line coach are there. I don't know, but ultimately that's going to be Kalen DeBoer's thing to figure out. Those guys can get right back into the portal real fast this April. And Rusty, one of the things that I've thought about with that whole UCLA thing and the Michigan thing, it did happen at a later date. It did kind of prevent some guys from jumping in or whatever. All of a sudden, if you're Georgia, those are two programs that were pretty good this past year. One of them won the national championship. The other one had a pretty solid team, especially a solid defensive team. And you're trying to maybe add some pieces after the spring. Those are two out-of-conference teams that may have some good players come available in April. And as we know, Georgia's almost never done when it comes to the portal or adding guys. And, we know they wanted to add Caleb Downs earlier, so we know they wanted to add Ben Yurosek as well. So you've talked about quarterback, we've talked about defensive line. There's a couple programs out there that have had some turnover that come April. What is it, April 15th, tax day or whatever? Is that what it is?
April 15th through May the 1st, and it'll be
tax man's coming.
That'll be 15 days of everybody. I tell you what, when that thing hits midnight, May the 1st, every coaching staff in America is going to exhale, because that is a hard situation. And listen, it's crazy to say, but Kirby Smart, anybody, Brian Kelly, no one kind of knows your complete roster and what you're going to deal with until May the 1st. So when all the transactions and everything is done on all the waiver wires and the free agency and all that, May the 1st, you'll be able to look at your staff and go, okay, this is who we have for 2024 season. We got summer workouts. There's no more transfers, none of that, which is crazy. But, when they get done with that, I talked to a head coach in Georgia, a high school coach, and we were talking about NIL stuff. And he told me last week that he had a MAC. It was a MAC school, I believe. A MAC school was recruiting his school, and the guy was in the office and they were talking. And he said they played a game on Wednesday night, or Tuesday night during the season, one of those MAC action games, and evidently they had a pretty good game. And he said, man, the next morning we had like 3 of our players walk in and show us DMs from schools that were watching those kids play that night. And I would assume it was schools that were like, hey, I don't know if it's a GA or what, but they weren't even trying to hide it. You know what I mean? And they're like, dude, they are in our kids' DMs as soon as the game's over. And man, there's just so much wrong with that situation. You know what I mean? How things like that happen. But now you're like, damn, I hope my quarterback don't go off on Tuesday night on ESPN, because I'm gonna have to fight to keep him.
It's a wild world out there, man. It's a wild world out there. We'll see if they get it on track. Smarter people than me are going to have to do it. I do know that. Let's get to Super Bowl Sunday, man. That's where we're at. That's what's here. I do love Super Bowl Sunday. I do enjoy watching the Super Bowl. I love NFL playoffs more than a lot of things. I do know that. I love it. And I've had a lot of fun watching them this year. Rusty, any Super Bowl memories stand out to you? Any specific Super Bowl Sunday?
I just for don't really know. I'm not a Bills fan, but I just like the way they've lost that Giants game and that kick, and you see all the stories, and you think about going to the Super Bowl 4 times and the team that the Bills had and just could not find a way to win one. It's just kind of sticks in my head like this is craziness. And then I'm older than you. I'm older probably than a lot of people, but I think it was Joe Montana versus the Bengals, and he had to lead a drive to win the game, and he comes in the huddle during the TV timeout. They got like a minute left to win the game, and said one of the linemen said he looked around and said, "Hey man, that's John Candy sitting in the first row right there?" And said the whole team turned around like, "The hell do you think? Why are we talking about John Candy?" But he said it made everybody relax and everybody breathe, and like Joe Montana, Mr. Super Cool, was like, "All right, boys, I'm looking at the stars in the crowd. We're good, and little things like that." So I'm not the biggest NFL guy, but I am now, because when they get into the playoffs, that's when you see the elite athleticism, how much bigger. I saw a podcast social about Derrick Henry talking about the difference between college football and NFL. And, he played in the SEC. He played for Alabama, and he played in some big time games. And he said, man, it's unbelievable the difference in the NFL than it is on Saturdays, how much everybody is so much bigger and faster and elite. You know what I mean? So I like the X and O part. I love college football more because of everything around it. You know what I mean? A game day, there's nothing like a college football atmosphere to me. It just is. But when you're talking about X's and O's, NFL, man, it's I don't think people realize, number one, how big they are. I like people when they go to an NBA game, and if they ever get close enough, they're like, I can't believe there's human beings that look like that can move like that. It's the same way when you go to the NFL. Like these are the biggest dudes, the 1 percentile athletes of the world. And I can't imagine can you imagine what they're thinking right now? Like, can you imagine being Brock Purdy sitting at, by the way, they had both teams 30 miles outside of Las Vegas. They wanted no issues.
None.
But think about Brock Purdy and the route he has taken, and how he got drafted, how it's kind of unfolded for him. And this dude's sitting there thinking, this is the biggest day of my life, sports wise. And, this is one of those moments that his grandkids will talk about. My granddad was quarterback for the 49ers, what's going to be the result today.
Yeah, it's, man, the biggest stage, and it's such an event, man. From the commercials and the halftime show and everything that goes into it, there's a lot of pageantry involved in this, more so. And I said it about a month ago that it was kind of a bummer not to cover the national championship game, because I've never been to a Super Bowl, but I can imagine that the energy is pretty similar. I
don't cut you off. I talked to our guy Matt Godwin last night.
Yeah.
From what he's there with Wheels Up, and he said that they've never had anything like this. Like, they've never had this many amount of celebrities and planes trying to get people to and from. He said yesterday at one point, I guess I'm not confidentiality, they had like Shaq, CEO of Hard Rock, everybody on back-to-back planes trying to get in yesterday. So crazy. We need to get him on in a couple of weeks. Ask him talk about this experience. He said it's the most unbelievable thing, that even the people that own Wheels Up and have done this for years said they've never seen anything like this. Everybody's trying to go to Vegas. Truly
like running like shuttles, like shuttles from other cities and stuff.
They had to park some in LA. There's no places to park the jets, so they're parking planes in LA and they're shuttling people to Vegas, because
we ain't talking about Delta here. We're talking about private jets. We're talking about big money, takes a ton of money.
Private jet.
All the money being spent in Vegas is. I would love to know. I would love it, and I'm sure there'll be something out that kind of recaps what the action Vegas saw because of this game being there. My favorite Super Bowl memory, though, is Super Bowl 32, Broncos Packers. Obviously, I'd watched the Broncos all year long. I had been for a couple, 2 or 3 years, been a big Terrell Davis fan, John Elway fan. And I'd begged my mom and dad. I was like, we had Sunday night service, and I begged my mom. I was like, hey, let's don't go. Let me watch Super Bowl, please. No, couldn't do it. So we did youth group before service that night and everything. And we sit down, and right as the pastor's getting started, I'm sitting on the back row, closest to the door, so we can get out of there and get out. All of a sudden, I looking around, I can't see my mom and dad. I don't know where they're at. My dad sticks his head through that back door. He goes, hey, come on. So we slip out, go get home just in time for kickoff. Watch the Broncos upset the Packers in that Super Bowl. Dude, I was so worried. I was like, man, we're not going to be able to run the ball. Gilbert Brown, number 93. At that point, there was like 2 things identifiable from space. It was the Great Wall of China and Gilbert Brown. And they found a way. Terrell Davis had a big game, scored a touchdown that either he couldn't see or he couldn't remember, one or the other, because of the migraines. And then the next one was a little bit heartbreaking, though, because it was Broncos Falcons, and I'd been rooting for the Falcons all the way through the playoffs. I wanted to see Falcons Broncos in the Super Bowl, and then when it got there, I was kind of like, man, this doesn't feel right, because I watched it with a bunch of Falcons fans, and Eugene Robinson had his deal the night before the game, and then Shannon Sharp gets hurt early in that game, tears his ACL. So that one kind of sucked. And then another thing I'll point to too, and Rusty, you can identify with this kind of thing. I remember bumping into Harrison Butker. I think it was my very first Rising Seniors game. And he's a kicker and everything. I get it. But man, he was a child. He was a child. He was 16 years old at the time, you know, a child. And this cat's fitting to have a chance to win his 3rd Super Bowl. I just unbelievable, kind of nicest kid ever. You know, I wanted to ask him what he was doing there until somebody told me who he was and what he did, and then it made sense. But 3rd Super Bowl for a guy like that, just crazy to kind of have. And I'm sure there were some other guys there that I don't remember that are probably playing in this game.
Miko
Hartman. Miko, yeah. Mm-hmm. I remember watching Miko as a freshman. I talk about it all the time. I think he fumbled 6 or 7 times his first high school game against Buford in the Granite Bowl. It rained about 6 inches in 20 minutes, seemed like. And he fumbled several times in that game, and they lost a close one. But, yeah, man, just so many of those guys covered him in high school and watching how Charlie Warner, all that stuff. I mean, it's amazing to see them have a chance to be on that stage, that's for sure.
Yeah, Chris Conley. I mean, crazy. I can't imagine what those guys are going through. We'll get to one question there. Jason Hildreth, I believe, pronounced that. Anyone know anything about the PWO tight end Jordan White out of Carrollton? Jake Roos wrote a good piece on that on, I believe, Friday, I believe. And got some quotes from his head coach, Joey King. One interesting thing, I came down to watch Carrollton practice during the season, and Joey, who's the head coach at Carrollton, who was a former tight end coach at South Florida. He was at Coastal Carolina, then he went to South Florida and went back to high school after a while. But you know, he was like, Rusty, this guy's lost in the shuffle, man. The portal's killing him. He's 6'3.5", 6'4". He had offers like Western Kentucky, UTC, Georgia Southern. So that's the thing you see now. Some of these kids are like, I'm going to roll the dice. So kind of tuck that one away. And, you know, social media wise, never seen him really do this, but Juju Lewis's dad made a post on his social media, said, this kid's going to play the NFL. You mark it down right now. This kid's going to play in the NFL. And that speaks a lot, because if anybody seen anybody run routes, it'd be the quarterback's dad. You know, he knows who his son could count on. And Todd Hartley got involved there about mid-December. And they started actively recruiting him and said, hey, you know, we're not going to have a spot, but making PWO. And, you know, you look at those things, you only get so many of those. And then you start talking about the state of Georgia, you know, you get the Hope. And if he had good grades, you know, those things wind up being about 60%, 65% scholarship. It's not like he's just, you know, some old, this ain't 1992 walk-ons. You know what I mean? You only get 10 of these per class. And so I thought that's a good question, Jason. Glad you brought that up and want to speak on him, because I have seen him a couple times in person, and you know, the people that I kind of trust with evals, they're like, look, dude, this guy got lost in the shuffle a little bit.
Hey, always trying to get better. Georgia's added three or four guys here in the last little bit. Most of them preferred walk-ons, and add the tight end Ben Yurosek. I'm thinking of the AD at Arkansas. But yeah, it's Super Bowl Sunday. Listen, y'all get back to your smokers, get back to your Rotel dip or whatever you're making. Have fun, enjoy the game. We'll be back with you, No Bark After Dark, tomorrow night, because we're off for the rest of the month on that. But we'll be back with you here on the Georgia Show Tuesday and Thursday morning. And have a good time. See you later.